Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who was once again very disappointed that the Giants beat the Patriots. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing fine, I think. Sorry we had to take an extra day on this podcast. I was a little busy yesterday, but I got to say that extra day gave me some time to think.
Okay, good. So you will be a well-prepared Kyle for this podcast.
Well, I wasn't thinking too much about this division. I was thinking a little bit about, myself, things in my life, what I might regret.
Are you doing all right, Kyle? Is you okay?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I don't regret anything I've said or done in life. I don't regret saying that Tua Tagovailoa should have been the first pick of the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret saying Justin Herbert probably was going to be a bust in that draft. I live with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest regret in life is that I can't come on here live and watch myself give a podcast once a week.
Yes.
Sure, I can go back and watch it on YouTube at Jackson Kruger Sports, or I can go back and listen to it wherever you get your podcast at On the Sideline Podcast. But I can't listen to myself live. And I'm sure the people who get to listen to this think this is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the people who do not get the reference are probably very confused as to what Kyle's rambling. Of course, talking about the I'm pretty sure fake Antonio Brown quote, right? Here's my, because there was I'm very confused about the situation. So here's the research that I figured out for this Antonio Brown quote. If you don't know, that's what Kyle was joking about at the beginning of his podcast. He said that his biggest regret. He tweeted out a picture of himself with the quote saying, "My biggest regret is I never got to see myself play," and about a lot of other crazy stuff. But that quote, the picture had a watermark on it from like a meme account. Yeah. So I think like a meme account made that, and then he just like saved the image and then shared it on his own Twitter. But I can't figure out if he was just trolling or if it was because he actually believes this.
I think he agrees with it. So
I thought he was trolling. I thought it was a AB was pulling a fast one on us.
Or I don't know. I don't know. I did see the original tweet from the meme account.
Okay.
And so I did see the original one that he spoofed off of. I'm not really sure. I'm sure he actually is like, you know what? That's really clever. I'm going to post that myself.
Right. Yeah, that could be. That could be. Maybe the memes become reality. We can't tell the difference anymore.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Kyle, this is a very fun. I think this is the most excited to do a podcast I've felt doing these previews so far. This is an electric division.
This is definitely an electric division. I see 3 potential playoff teams. I mean, dare I say,
and the other one will make the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. There's 3 potential Super Bowl teams out of this division, I'd say. Yeah, obviously they can't all make it, but I think three of them have a legit chance of making it out of the AFC. So I think this is an incredible division. I actually still have it as the second best division in football, but there's a real argument that this one's number 1.
Yeah, could be number 1 in entertainment value.
Yeah, I think so. So this is going to be some really good stuff. We're going to get into it with these teams. You ready to you want to just dive right in?
Yeah, let's just dive right in. As always, the way we do this, Kyle is going to give us his list from worst to best of each team. And I'm going to go through, give sort of more of an in-depth, position by position group ranking and all that good stuff. And then we'll sort of talk in a general picture at the end of each. Let's start with number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's your list, but I know it's number 4.
Yeah, I don't feel good about this. I don't love doing it. This was a rivalry for us for, a couple decades here. And I have a massive amount of respect for this organization, the way they do things. They're always just a steady, good football team. And I don't love it because I'm picking against one of the best team or best coaches in NFL of the last 20 years, without a doubt. He's just one of the best, and he's one of the best today. He always has been one of the best. There's a couple things to like about this Pittsburgh Steelers team, but there's so many things that I think are still weak. I feel like this team needed a full teardown and rebuild, but I think Mike Tomlin's too proud for that, and the Steelers are too proud for that. But when I'm hearing things like Mason Rudolph might win the starting quarterback job at a training camp, I'm out. I can't do it. I can't do it with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I got them fourth.
Yeah, fourth is the right spot from. I don't think they're a horrible team. This is not a fourth because they suck. I think this is the fourth because there's three really good teams in this division, and it all starts at the top. Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin. That's kind of that's the yin and yang of this Steelers team. Is head coach my second ranked coach, but they're a tier 5 quarterback room. So if they can get like decent quarterback play, then that could change. But for now, I'm not going to bet on it.
Yeah, and he actually has some guys to work with here. He's going to have a running game that they're going to use a lot. I believe Najee Harris was one of the only running backs in the NFL to be on the field for more than 70% of his team's offensive snaps, which is a lot. But of course, he's a good running back. He's got some pass catchers. There's some things here to work with. So I think he's going to have he has the tools to succeed, at least some of them, I think. And I think he's got a good situation. We'll just see if he's good, because I think that's something I legitimately have a question in, because I wouldn't have taken him in the first three rounds, never mind the first round itself.
Yeah, I would probably take him in the second round, but I get the point. There's a lot of, I know you are not the world's biggest Kenny Pickett fan. The weapons. So here's my thing. How do we really feel about Najee Harris? I feel like Najee Harris gets a lot of, he was a first round running back. That bolsters your stock in our minds whenever that happens. I think Najee Harris has been fine. I don't like this depth at all. Benny Snell has not been great. I have it as a tier 4 running back room for me, because I like Najee Harris. But again, there's a lot of good running backs, I guess is my point.
There's two things going against him. Number one, there's a lot of good running games and running backs. Number two, or three things really. Number two, everybody figured out by like week 8, this team couldn't throw the ball 15 yards. And I think he's going to see a lot of loaded boxes again. And number 3, his offensive line's not very good. So there's a lot of advanced statistics out there that love Najee Harris. I think he had the most missed tackles of any running back and wide receiver in the NFL last year, which is a fantastic thing to have. I think he's a really good runner. And I think in the right situation, he's going to be a really good running back in this league. But he's at a combination of, he's going to face a lot of loaded boxes. And I don't think the offensive line in front of him is very good.
Yeah, he also is benefited by he gets bulk stats, because like you said, he's out there every snap, it feels like. So that's gonna, good fantasy guy to have. The receivers are interesting. They have a lot of guys who I like. The question is, how many do I love? I think, but Deante Johnson, who he's one of those guys. There's a few guys on the Steelers, like, you can't say a bad thing about him on Twitter, and Johnson is one of them. Do not say a bad word about him. And he's good. Like, there's not a lot of bad things to say about him. Chase Claypool is solid as well. And then you have like these depth guys I think could be good. George Pickens, who I was very high on coming out of the draft. Also Calvin Austin, who I'm intrigued by, a 4th round pick. And the Steelers do this. This is the smart strategy of draft wide receivers in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. Those guys hit pretty well. That's a smart strategy that they consistently do. And Miles Boykin, depth from Baltimore. Gunnar Olszewski. Kyle, help me out here.
Olszewski.
Yes, mostly just a special teamer, but we'll give him a shout out. And then for the tight ends, Pat Freiermuth, of course, and Zach Gentry, who played all right last year. So it's tier 3 receiving room for me. You have depth, you have guys I like, but there's teams that have more high end talent for me.
Yeah, it's a bunch of 2s and 3s and not a 1, right? Like, I mean, I'm a big Deante Johnson fan. We've gone through this, but I don't think you could put him in the tier 1 category wide receiver. You just can't at this point in his career. I think he's still immensely talented. I still think he's a really productive player, but he's not a tier 1 wide receiver. PFF, even in his best season last year, was 39th out of 115. So, I mean, that's good, but it's not, you're not, putting Deante Johnson in your top 20. Claypool, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like he could be used a lot better too. But at the same time, I still think he's just fine. a lot of Pickens buzz out of camp. A lot of Pickens buzz. Everyone's really high on this guy. He was one of those players in college that like you saw he was immensely talented, and he'd have like 3 or 4 games. It's like, wow, this guy's a stud. And then you punch a guy in the face, and you're just like, okay, well, I don't really know what to do with this at this point.
Right.
I still like Pickens. I like his talent. We'll see how it translates to the NFL. And then Pat Freiermuth, I think, is going to be a tier 1 tight end. I still think he's got he needs a couple of years under his belt, but a lot of promise out of that spot too.
Yeah. To round out the offense with the offensive line, do not love this offensive line. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I like Mason Cole, former Arizona Cardinal, solid center. I like James Daniels, who they just got from the Bears. But then the rest is where things get tricky. With Kevin Dotson as the other guard, tackle situation is tough. Looks like it could be Dan Moore Jr. and Chukwuma Okafor as the 2 tackles. This is a tier 5 offensive line for me.
This tackle situation scares me.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at, you're playing twice against Cleveland, who has, pretty good defensive ends. You're playing twice against you're playing twice against Baltimore that, gets after the quarterback pretty well. I don't love that situation. As Scotty Hong here says, O-line will be better than last year. It kind of has to be better than last year. It can't be any worse than what it was.
Nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope it's better than last year. Otherwise, I pray for Kenny Pickett. So I think it could be better. It could be better, but at the same time, there's not a lot of promise still for right now.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention in this whole segment, Mitchell Trubisky's on the team too. Which that's fine. We don't have to mention him. 29th ranked offense for me. I'm not huge on this offense, but the defense gets better. Starting off with the front seven. Front seven's where it's fantastic, right? The interior, you have Cameron Hayward, who's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game. You also have Chris Wormley and Tyson Alau, who are is Alau going to be what he once was? I don't know. He was injured all last year. A fly came near me. Sorry about that. But be intrigued there, and then the edge rusher situation with TJ Watt, and then I like Alex Highsmith and Gerard Avery should be good depth. On top of that, linebackers are guys who, Miles Jack, who he's one of those guys who Pro Football Focus really doesn't like him, but maybe just put him in a better situation, it could work out better. You also have Devin Bush, who Pro Football Focus hates even more. So we'll see about the linebacker situation. But I like this defensive line so good. Tier 2 run defense for me, and Tier 1 pass rush.
Yeah, I think there's things to like here. I think Jackie is going to be better. That defense was atrocious in Jacksonville, especially in the front seven. I don't think there is anybody that was going to look good in that situation. Right. Devin Bush, we're hoping, man. We're hoping you can get a little bit better. I want to see him, play a little bit better. It just hasn't really worked out for him so far. I do feel like, you look at this defensive line, though, with a guy like TJ Watt, with Cameron Hayward, with, off the edge in that 3-4 Alex Highsmith. I mean, that itself should be a top half of the league defensive line. Even, if you get replaced, below average players on those other 2 spots, it's going to be a really good group up front.
Yeah. Finally, to round out the team, coverage, we're interested in seeing what Minkah Fitzpatrick does. I think he'll bounce back. Some people think that he was not bad last year. Again, the Pro Football Focus grade was very much not good. I made a whole video. I think that there were some issues, but I would still bank on him being good. And it was just kind of a down year given the situation of last year. You also have Terrell Edmonds as the other safety. And then for the corners, Ahkello Weatherspoon, Levi Wallace, Cameron Sutton. It's an all right coverage unit. It's tier 4 for me. I think it's fine. I just think I'd rather have one more good corner here. I think would really make me feel a lot better.
Yeah, I think the problem is that we're hoping for, if you get elite level play from Minkah Fitzpatrick at safety, you feel okay about it if he's back to that all-pro level. But one of the things we've talked about before in these preview podcasts, we've mentioned it from multiple teams before this, is what exactly does great safeties do if you got terrible corners? And they're terrible corners. I'm not a huge fan of their cornerback room. I don't think it's a really great situation. I don't know. I don't feel like I could rely on either of those guys. So, even if Fitzpatrick's good, how much does that help you without good corners?
Yeah, it's easy to avoid an amazing safety if your corners can't cover. You can find ways to avoid that. So that's just kind of the concern with Pittsburgh. But I think I like the corners a little better than you do. So I have their defense as tied for 11th, which puts their total win total at a respectable 7.34 wins. That's 22nd in football, but 14th in the AFC because the AFC is very, a lot of good teams there.
Yeah, a lot of good teams in the AFC. This is going to be a really tough conference for a lot of teams. There's going to be a lot of good teams that make the playoffs that, you could look back in like 15 years ago might win the conference but miss the playoffs this year. Now, this Pittsburgh team, yeah, I think I agree. Like, I think just because of the fate of that they're one of the lesser teams in the AFC, they might lose. They might go under that 7 wins. But at the same time, like with Tomlin there, with that defensive line, I think they should be okay. I think that it's a tough division. It's a tough division to navigate, and I think that's really going to hurt them.
They're still going to somehow weirdly make the playoffs or something. This is the Steelers. We know what they do.
Come on. So I guess the first question I have is, are you buying this Mason Rudolph thing?
I don't believe. I think I am a believer in training camp reports are not canon. I do not believe in training camp reports.
Okay. So this is all smokescreen.
Yeah, it might not be, but I have no idea.
So if you were to bet today who's the starting quarterback, who are you picking? Week 1. First game of the season.
I feel like probably Mitchell Trubisky. That just feels like the safest option. I think typically coaches go with the safest option, especially like Tomlin, who does feel like a bit more of like a old schooler type head coach. Not completely full old school, but like more of like a, give the job to the veterans. I would probably say Trubisky.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's just interesting that, we're not exactly getting glowing reports out of training camp. We're hearing about Mason Rudolph looking good. But like I said, we'll see what happens. I think this offense is going to struggle with the quarterbacks this season. But, I think they still got talent there that's building.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's get to and again, the Steelers being maybe the least interesting team in this division just says how many interesting teams there are in this division. Because the Steelers are fascinating. I think they'll be fun this year. I'm actually excited. I think the Steelers have been kind of, I don't know, they were not that fun the past couple of years, even though they were really good for a stretch of 2 years ago. I think they'll be more fun this year, even if not as good.
I think so too, because there were times where that team just looked like lifeless, with, like the Detroit game was basically that team in a nutshell, where it's like, okay, Ben Roethlisberger into the dirt in front of his receiver who's open. Ben Roethlisberger, oh, it's off again, and then pulls one off at the fourth quarter, and that's kind of this team. It was cardiac team for probably any Pittsburgh fan, but it was not the best viewing experience.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. All right, Kyle, I gotta be honest. I think with these 3 teams, you could use any combination for these top 3. I think that I can understand the logic behind any of them. Where are you going to finish 3rd in this division?
Yeah. So a little peel behind the curtain here. We did the NFC first for one reason only. I wanted to wait on this division because I wanted to hear what the suspension was for Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't exactly know what's going to happen this season, which makes it even more difficult. But we're going to try our best here. That being said, I had the Cleveland Browns 3rd because this is a team that I think potentially could finish 3rd in this division and then make a run through the AFC in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this situation where Deshaun Watson's going to be out the first 6 games, at minimum, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen here. For now, let's just go under the assumption he's going to miss 6 games. Yes, you could argue, this isn't that strong of a schedule start for the Browns over those first 6 games. Sure, but at the same time, if you're just starting Jacoby Brissett, who is probably a tier 6 quarterback, never mind tier 5, is it a lock that you're going to win at Carolina to start the season? Is it a lock that you're going to beat Pittsburgh at home? Games against Los Angeles and New England, those are going to be tough games. There's a very real chance that they drop at least 3 games because of this, missing his first 6 games. And then guess what? Those games that you were hoping to have Watson and be really good, the schedule gets a lot harder in the back half of the season when he does come back, because you got Baltimore twice, Cincinnati twice, you play Tampa Bay, you play Buffalo, you play New Orleans. Those aren't easy games to necessarily win. And even with Watson, I don't think those are guaranteed victories. I think that's a really tough group. That's a really tough schedule to navigate, especially with missing your quarterback for at least 6 weeks. That being said, you look at this Browns team and you could go position group. We're going to get a lot of tier 1s in this position group thing. We're going to get a tier 1 group, a lot of tier 1 groups on offense. We're going to get a lot of tier 1 groups on defense. This is a really complete roster, a really talented team. So that being said, if Watson does play this season, I can see this team making a run to the Super Bowl in the playoffs. But with those 6 games, I think it's going to hurt them in the division standings.
Yeah, there's a lot of smart people with the Browns. The Browns they run their team very similar to how the Ravens run their team now. They're kind of, there's interesting similarities and parallels to them with also being division rivals. And obviously, the Ravens used to be the Cleveland Browns. I think you're a bit of an unfair shot at Jacoby Brissett saying he's not even a tier 5 quarterback. The tier 5 quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Davis Mills, and Geno Smith, or Fields isn't. I think I said someone twice, but anyways, he at least belongs in that category, I would say. But what I did for this, which is not totally fair, but it's just how I did it. I just operated under the assumption Watson's playing the whole year, which is obviously not going to happen. But that's just how I evaluated this because I didn't know exactly what to do. Will he get suspended? So I gave him tier 1 quarterback stuff because at the end of the day, I'm trying to evaluate how good these teams will be and what are their odds of winning a Super Bowl. And, I think Watson, there's a good chance he would at least be eligible for the playoffs. So I'm putting tier 1 quarterback officially for this.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, by the time this team reaches the playoff, if he's playing game, if he plays games, I think that this team's going to be really good. It's just that they have to get to the point where he's playing games where we still don't know that's going to happen. But under the assumption that he at least plays week 7 and on, I think they're going to be well set in that regard because, you know what? I guess, once again, who is it? Scotty Hong here with another great question. Well, does Sean be the same guy after all this mess? I think with his age, there's a good chance the other comment from him. There's a good chance, with his age that he should still be a terrific quarterback. Could he not be as good when he comes back? It's possible. He's missed a lot of time, but I still think he's going to be a terrific player when he does come back.
Yeah, I think there could be some growing pains, and that's very interesting, especially if he starts later on in the season. Maybe he won't be able to get up to speed quite quick. Also, this is just one of the most insane comments I think I've seen of Jackson. I love the content, but you are built for radio, not television. Just having a laugh. I feel like that's a weird. Hey, big fan of content. You're ugly, but also appreciate what you do. Ha ha ha. I think okay. Thanks for the compliment. I guess I appreciate the compliment part of that.
We got a comment the other day that said it's NPR meets Hard Rock Radio. So maybe you're just the NPR of football content.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know. I've often said that I have a face for radio and a voice for newsprint. So I think that's I actually think that's better than my own statement of myself.
Yeah. So it's okay. Yeah. You're a good looking guy to me, man. Don't worry.
Hey, that's all that matters. Not really, but let's move on. Let's talk more about the Browns. Kevin Stefanski, I have as my 16th ranked head coach. I think there's stuff he does very well. Not sure if he deserved that coach of the year, but I get it. You got the Browns to the playoffs, fine. And that's usually not given to the best coach anyway. And he was still relatively deserving. I like Stefanski. I'm interested in seeing what he'll do now that I think that there's, with a quarterback like Watson.
Yeah, I mean, this feels kind of, it's a little cheap, but it's, McVay adding Matthew Stafford to his group, his team, where he had a decent quarterback, it looked like at the time. He went out and still got an upgrade anyway because it feels like it's going to make all the difference. It could make all the difference because it felt like this team might be an elite quarterback away. They have that spot now, and I expect him to do a lot of fun stuff with this offense now that he has that player that can make every throw he wants.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, Sean McVay had made Jared Goff into like a top 10 quarterback. Although I guess you could say, maybe the same about Stefanski and Mayfield, perhaps. There's some interesting talent with this team. The receiving core, I like Amari Cooper. I think he'll fit in that scheme well. It obviously sucks that you drove away Odell Beckham Jr. with how that whole situation was handled. But, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz, and David Bell are the depth. I don't love that depth. You have David Njoku, who I think is solid, and you have Harrison Bryant, who I think is solid. But this is a tier 4 receiving core for me because I don't love the depth here.
Yeah, this is definitely the weakness of the team. I think on the offensive side of the ball. I like Cooper, but they really need a second guy to step up. I think Njoku has even been a guy that's like, okay, we really like the talent, but we want to see a little more consistent production. He'll have moments that he's awesome. Harrison Bryant's another guy they drafted with a lot of promise that they're hoping kind of also develops. Those are both guys that we're still waiting on to develop. Donovan Peoples-Jones is another guy who's shown flashes, but we want to see it a little more consistently. And I think that there's going to be a lot asked of David Bell in his rookie year, which I think is tough.
Yeah, I really do like the rest of this offense, though. You have the halfbacks, obviously, tier 1 with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt and Deante Johnson, like 3 really good halfbacks there. The offensive line, also tier 1 of, the tackles, Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin. Guards, Joel Bitonio, who was Pro Football Focus's highest graded guard last year, and Wyatt Teller, who was Pro Football Focus's highest graded guard from a year before. They did lose J.C. Tretter, or at least he's a free agent, but they replaced him with Ethan Pocket, who is a solid center as well. So, Brown's offensive line has been very good for a few years now. Still very good.
J.C. Tretter to the Bucks?
I'm hoping. I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mean, this, like I said, now you're looking at it. It's a tier 1 offensive line. It's a tier 1 running back room, and it's a tier 1 quarterback room. And not only is, this should be like a tier 1+, honestly, running back room, because it has the elite guy who might be one of the top 5 runners in football. And then it's also got tremendous depth. There's Kareem Hunt might be a top 10 running back on his own. Deante Johnson might be, a fringe starting running back on his own.
He was the 9th highest graded running back for Pro Football Focus last year. Small sample size, but he was really good when we saw him.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a really terrific group. I guess the one question I have is, so, once again, where we have these first 6 games, I just imagine during these first games, they're going to face a lot of loaded boxes, right? And as terrific as this offensive line is it going to be able to hold up for 6 games where it's just facing constant pressure? It's going to face 8 guys constantly, I feel like. How do you think this team's going to hold up in those situations?
It's a great point. And they, that could put them in a hole. I would think not great because, again, you don't have that great receiving core. But I think Brissett is, I don't think Brissett. I like Brissett. I think Brissett's a good backup. I think that they're in a position where they could do okay. But yeah, that would be tough. But with Watson, I have it as the 3rd rated offense in football. And maybe they'll have to win with their defense. And their defense is, I think, solid. To transition there, the headliner, Myles Garrett for the front 7. He's obviously, debatably the best pass rusher in football. Steelers fans and Browns fans, I want you to argue in the comments about that. That's what I want you guys to do. Go ahead. Let me know, because I've never really heard them talk about if they think Myles Garrett or TJ Watt is better. So we'd love to hear some thoughts on that. The rest is, Clowney, who I like Clowney. I think Clowney's such a unique player, but I like him. Chase Winovich can rush the passer. He, don't ask him to stop the run, but he can rush the passer. And then, you have Taven Bryant and Jordan Elliott on the interior, which is not great. Interior could definitely use some improvements. Certainly, I like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah and Anthony Walker as linebackers, but with the interior defensive line, I have to put it as a tier 4 run defense, but I have it as a tier 1 pass rush.
Yeah, I think I agree with all that. Owusu-Koramoah is another guy who can also get after the quarterback too. So, you got different guys you can also send in a blitz. Garrett, to me, is the 2nd best defensive lineman in football. I also think he adds a lot to the run defense as well, which I think is huge, because you don't have great interior defensive linemen. And I think that's one thing that him and Clowney both do really well, is they defend the run very well, which makes up for having lousy interior defensive linemen, because, I mean, it's just not good.
Right. Yeah, and I almost wonder if that's like a strategy they have of hey, let's just not put resources in this because we have these good, run defense edge rushers. We'll see how well that works out. You said Garrett's your 2nd favorite defensive lineman. I'm assuming this is, of course, behind Matthew Judon.
Matthew Judon's up there. He might be 3rd. Actually, no, Max Crosby's 3rd because that guy's a complete lunatic and I love him. Aaron Donald's still number 1.
Okay.
Then it's Garrett. Then it's got to be Crosby. Then it's Judon. Judon's 4th best in football.
Okay, sorry, so TJ Watt, a fringe top 5 defensive lineman in Kyle's book. The coverage unit is, there's stuff I really like about this coverage unit. Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. That's Ward's a good number 1. Greedy Williams is a good number 2. Martin Emerson is sort of their looks like their third guy. He was a third-round pick. Don't know how much I love relying on that. But, the safeties, John Johnson, Grant Delpit, and Ronnie Harrison, good 3 safeties. And then, also JLK can cover well. Anthony Walker can cover well. It's a tier 3 coverage unit for me. I'd like them to have one more corner is my real concern here.
Do they not have Greedy Williams? Did I miss something?
No, they have Greedy Williams. I mentioned him. Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, and Martin Emerson. Am I missing somebody?
Greg Newsome? Newsome's their starter, I think.
Oh, yeah. What am I saying? Yeah. Okay, screwed up the notes. Well, that's got to fix that then.
Yeah, because I thought this was going to be like a tier 2 or 1 group, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was a mistake by me. I'll have to fix that. So this is better than tier 3. Sorry to everyone but yeah, this is obviously better than tier. I don't know how I missed that. Just the notes. Got to keep track of a lot of teams. I forgot a very good player for the Browns. That's my bad.
Yeah, you're all good. So it's it's our preseason too. But yeah, yes. I mean, 3 good cornerbacks there with Ward, Williams, and Newsome. Delpit, Johnson, and Harrison, 3 good safeties. I even like LeCount a little bit too. So I mean, that's good depth, I think, overall with that group. That I think you could put it as the tier 1.
Yeah, tier 1, tier 2. That's definitely where it's at. So I have it as 15th right now. But now I think I gotta go back and do some math. So because I currently had the Browns with a tier 4 kicker in Cade York, the rookie kicker who they spent the 4th round pick on. I currently have them as the 8th best team in football with 11.72 wins. That would be 5th in the AFC, which would give them the 2nd wild card spot. So I have them as a playoff team, but that's with Deshaun Watson. So that's where things get weird. Is without Watson, they're not a playoff team. So that's the question mark here.
Yeah, and like I said, so I think it's just, if they can kind of hold serve, I think, in those early games, and if Watson plays week 7, I think they're able to kind of bounce back, make the playoffs, make a run, because this is the deeply talented team. The question is going to be, how do they hold up without him? But that being said, like I said, they should be okay. If they make the playoffs with Deshaun Watson, they're a Super Bowl contender. If he's not playing this year, it might be a punt until next season kind of year, but this team is still really, really talented.
Yeah. So I have them as I believe I have them as my currently my 3rd team in this division. But if I have them as a tier 1 coverage unit, which I'm not sure I would, tier 1 or tier 2, that could bump them up to 1st. So that's their range. And without Deshaun Watson, then they're competing for last. So they're a team that could very much be a boom or bust team in 2022.
Yeah, I think so. I really think that's kind of what the situation is. I guess, you're not a schedule guy, but I'm going to put the schedule on you anyways.
Okay.
So week 1 at Carolina, week 2 against the Jets at home, week 3 against Pittsburgh at home, week 4 at Atlanta, week 5 home to the Chargers, week 6 home to New England. 3-3 through those 6 games, over under.
I feel like I'll probably say over.
Over. So you think that they find... Okay, so you think they probably beat the Jets and probably beat Atlanta. You taking Carolina, too, on the road?
Yeah, they should beat Carolina.
And so you think they're taking one more Pittsburgh Chargers in New England?
Yeah.
Okay. 4-2. That'd be interesting. Because, yeah, I mean, if they're 4-2 at that point, then, yeah, lock this team into the playoffs.
I mean, really, my prediction would be 3-3, but like if I had to pick over or under, I probably would lean towards over.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, this is an immensely talented team. This is a team I'm really considering to make the Super Bowl. We've been stunned by this team before in the past, though, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's very much true. 2 teams that, very interesting teams. We have the team that was 2 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl just last year. We have a team who's only a couple years removed from winning 14 games and putting together one of the best offenses of all time. Which team do you have finishing 2nd in this division?
I went back and forth on this maybe 20 times.
Okay.
The hunch wants me to go. My heart wants me to go one way. My brain's telling me to go the other way. I'm gonna stick with the brain first. I'm gonna take the Baltimore Ravens second. I am buying into a lot of the hype for the Baltimore Ravens this season. I think that this is going to be a pretty good offensive line. I think that this is going to be a the best running team in football, not just a good running team. This is going to be the best running team in football. And not to mention this team, they have the best secondary in the league, I think, by far, especially when everybody's healthy. Everybody's healthy and back. There's not a lot of weaknesses to this team. I think they're going to be a terrific team. I think they're a Super Bowl contender. I might have a little monetary incentive, splash on Lamar Jackson MVP odds right now. I think that there's a lot to really like about this team, and it seems like they're really motivated. I got the Ravens second. I think that they could win this division by a lot too. I'm a big fan of this team.
Interesting. I really like the Ravens as well. I don't love everything about the Ravens. There's still some flaws that seem like are the same flaws every year. So we'll see if they become an issue. But, all starts, you talked about the running game. It all starts with Lamar. As long as Lamar is healthy, you like this team is a shoe-in for the playoffs because he is that kind of game changer. And especially with John Harbaugh, the other guy, there's that sort of marriage that has been going on these past few years. I mean, Lamar still hasn't been paid, but, those two guys together obviously make great things happen.
They do make great things happen. And you know what? I think the Lamar, conversations had gotten weird this offseason again. We're back. It seems like we're right back to where we were when he was drafted. With all the conversations of, is he a quarterback? Is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? All this stuff. Obviously, he's a quarterback. He won an MVP as a quarterback. Now, I think that there is reasons to criticize Lamar. I thought that there was times, if you saw Lamar in the fourth quarter of some of those games he was dragging the Ravens back from, you're probably like, this guy's amazing. This guy's the best player in football. I also thought he put him in a lot of bad positions to put him in those games that he had to come back and make those. Now, it's not all his fault. He was dealing with a ton of injuries on his team, so it doesn't make it easy on him. But that being said, I thought he was kind of a boomer bust player last season dealing with that team. But now that everybody's back, I feel like he can go back to being just the boom guy. And I think he's got there's a lot of reasons to be excited about him.
Yeah, he wasn't perfect last year. That's why he is tier 2, whereas I believe in previous years I had him at tier 1. I have dropped him down a tier. It's really more so I think other guys have, passed him by last year more so than he's seen his play deteriorate too much because he is still incredible. The concern I have with the Ravens, tell me if you've heard this one before, is their receiving core. You have, again, there's things to like here. Mark Andrews, everyone knows my love for Mark Andrews. He's incredible. And you have Isaiah Likely in the 4th round, who you drafted, who, was sort of the talk of the town during that preseason game today. The receiving core itself, though, the receivers, Rashad Bateman, first rounder from a year ago, who I want to see more of. I like him, but I want to see more of him. Devin Duvernay, James Proche, Tylan Wallace. I mean, these are the guys, they have some undrafted free agent receivers who might legitimately be getting playing time here. This is not a lot of depth here. There's a couple guys I like. It's a tier 4 receiving core for me. I remember I was listening to that preseason game, and I had the Ravens commentators there, and one of the guys said, "Oh, well, the Ravens, they have Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. You can't cover all 3 of those guys." Like what? Like as if Mark Andrews I will give you, but like Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely are these elite players that you just can't cover one-on-one.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. That's a bit of a stretch.
I love the Homer commentators during the preseason.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That being said, though, I'm not really worried about it. I'm just, so let's go through the numbers here. In 2020, when everybody was healthy, this team was 6th in EPA per play on offense. They were also top 15 in the league. They were 15th in drop back EPA. So, you know what? This team's still pretty good when they drop back and throw the ball. I think that J.K. Dobbins is going to help a lot in this passing game. I think that's something that he was really, really good at Ohio State. Didn't get a whole lot of chance stuff to do his rookie year, and I think he's going to go back to catching the ball out of the backfield. I think that's really going to help this passing game. And all right, so I'll throw this down. Bold prediction. I don't know if it's bold. We'll throw it down for a bold prediction. Rashad Bateman will have more receiving yards than Marquise Brown next season.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's I'd probably lean towards Brown, but I think you could argue either one.
Yeah, so they traded Brown, which is like, oh, okay, you did lose your number 1 receiver, but you know what? I didn't really like their number 1 receiver that much. Right. And you could even say
it was great value.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great value. And you know what? I think at the same time, you could even argue it was a bad marriage for both sides. I don't think it was a great fit for Baltimore and what they wanted to do. And I don't think Brown really liked being that kind of player on that team. I think Bateman fits this team a lot better. I think he's gonna, I think he has a higher ceiling than Brown, and I think he could be a lot better than Marquise Brown too in that number one role. I think Bateman and Andrews could become a really dynamic duo. And I think it could really work for this Baltimore offense. But that being said, this is a team that doesn't need to thrive with elite wide receivers.
I guess here's my thing. Haven't we just seen too many times a team play like a man coverage against them and the Ravens can just get nothing going? Like when the Patriots upset the Ravens a couple years back. I think about that I brought up the 14-2 season when the Tennessee Titans played man coverage. No one's getting open. And there's only so much Lamar can do on his own. Yes, he'll get these crazy runs when you do that, but that's pretty much the only way that they can beat you at that point. Like, I'm surprised they still haven't gone out and really said, I would love this team if they had a great receiving core. They just don't have that. It's still a passing league at the end of the day. I get Lamar's a unicorn. He's different. It would still help a lot to have great receivers. And I don't think it'll hurt you to get into the playoffs. I think it could be a reason why it's sometimes hard for them to generate offense against a team like Buffalo when they can basically make it that you're not getting guys open. And then there's just only so much Lamar can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is obviously the larger sample size shows that the Ravens are still really good. But I think the problem that they've run into in the playoffs is in these one-off games, like you're saying, a team runs man coverage and it works. The problem is that you need to play a borderline perfect game on defense for that, because playing man coverage against Lamar is also a dangerous thing on the other side because you're not looking at him when he's running outside the pocket. So, I think you need to play a really successful. I mean, it's the path to beating the Ravens, but you also need to be borderline perfect doing it.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. So someone in the comments brings up the Miami game of Lamar needs to prove he can beat zero blitzes again after last year. I think his receivers have a lot to do with his struggle against. Yeah, and that to me that's true. It's like that Miami game is the perfect example of they just said you're gonna have to get rid of the ball right away and make your receivers beat us, and they just didn't the entire game. And it's just I get it. One receiver makes one play and then you get a touchdown. But that didn't happen. And I guess that's my thing is I don't think you have to be perfect. I think, if you hold a team to 24 points, that's a win in today's NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's potential. But, I mean, if this defense is healthy, you also got to score with it. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I still think that, it's going to be – I'm still betting that on more times than not, it's going to be all right. They're going to win a lot more games than they lose because of it.
I agree. I don't disagree. I just think I'm concerned about the big games is all my thing is. The rest of the offense is solid. Running back room, J.K. Dobbins coming off an injury, but he's very good when on the field. Gus Edwards, Mr. 5.2 career yards per carry himself. You also have Mike Davis, who had that one great year with the Panthers. We'll see if he can, recapture some of that magic. Still Justice Hill, who I will never give up on. Tier 3 running back room for me. And then for the offensive line, Morgan Moses, and then the great Ronnie Stanley for the tackles. The center, Tyler Linderbaum, who I think should be able to play. I was a huge fan of him coming out of college. And then for the guards, Kevin Zeitler, who is very good. Tyree Phillips, who is bad, but 4 out of 5, not bad. So it's a tier 3 offensive line for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Powers is fine too. So I mean, I think I think it's going to be a good offensive line. I think Linderbaum's going to be good right away. I mean, if he is good right away, this could jump up to a tier 1 group. And I think the big thing is that they added depth to this running back room because they saw what happened as soon as Dobbins went down. I think Mike Davis at least should be fine. And this is another one of those ones where it's yes, it's graded as a tier 3 running back room based on on the grading metrics, which is probably fair. But at the same time, this team's probably going to lead the league in rushing because it has Lamar, because it has Dobbins, and because it has these guys.
Yeah, and my system always undervalues the Ravens just because, they're a unicorn. Their offense is different than every other team. So I have their offense rated as 21st with all that put together, but they'll be way better than 21st. We all know. So that's kind of just they're this weird team, but they kind of break my system. Their defense, I think that they're you talk about their secondary. A lot of good players here in the secondary. Hopefully we'll get a healthy secondary, but Marlon Humphrey, who I think will bounce back. I think that they gave him a tough assignment last year. He's a good player. He just, he has a lot on his plate. There's only so much he can do. How many other guys were going up against every team's number 1 receiver every week? Marcus Peters, obviously we're hoping to see him healthy. And then for the depth, you added Kyle Fuller. There's Brandon Stevens in the mix. You have Damian Williams, who they drafted in the 4th round, and then Jalen Amar Davis, who they drafted in the 4th round. So they're getting some depth there with the corners while still having top end guys. The safeties, Marcus Williams, Chuck Clark, Kyle Hamilton, who they drafted with the 14th overall pick. You have linebackers Josh Bynes and then Patrick Queen, who some people love. Don't know why, but he is a tier 1 coverage unit for this Ravens team.
I agree. I mean, this team just produces cornerbacks, and I mean, like, I fully expect Kyle Fuller to bounce back and have a tremendous season, even though he struggled last season. I think going into this defense, it's almost a cheat code. He's going to have stealthy guys around him. And like you said, Humphrey did struggle last year, but that was also because, like, his starting safety, his starting second cornerback, I think his starting third cornerback at one point went down. So, I mean, it was a tough situation for everybody in that Baltimore defense just because there were so many injuries. If Peters is healthy, Humphrey should be really good. Peters should be really good. Williams should be really good. I like Clark. Kyle Fuller should bounce back and be really good. So that's basically saying that Kyle Hamilton, their first round pick, might not, he could not play a snap. And I still think this might be the best coverage unit in the NFL. That's how good I think this group is. Not to mention that they added this jack of all trades kind of player who's going to be really interesting to see how they deploy him on this defense.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they've got it figured out. You trust the Ravens with that stuff. So this is an interesting question. Is Humphrey less valuable because he struggled to play outside man on an island versus top corners like Chase? I would say no. I would say he was one of the only guys who was asked to do stuff like that consistently. And I think that given the fact that, the Ravens basically said, let's just see if we can get him to cover an opposing team's top guy so that way we can spend the resources elsewhere. And, he had mixed results, but I just think it was more of a situation thing than him having a step back. I think anyone would struggle on an island against Ja'Marr Chase.
Especially when he just didn't have the help. Like, if Marcus Williams is over the top of the play, too, like, how much does that add to your defense?
Right. Yeah. No. It's just, I think that being able to actually, I don't know, maybe have the occasional safety help might be beneficial for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think he's going to be fine. I still think he's elite, and I think Peters is right there, too. So that helps.
Yeah, and coverage is just inherently fluky too. That's the other thing. Like, guys have up and down years. That's kind of the nature of their position. The front seven, I mentioned the linebackers already. For the defensive line, you have edge rushers Tyus Bowser, Odafe Owe, and then they drafted David Ojabo. But will we see him this year? I don't know. But he's there. And then for the interior, you have Michael Pierce, who was really good with the Ravens, but then not really great or healthy the past 2 years with the Vikings. So maybe just, wearing Ravens purple instead of Vikings purple will work better for him. Also Calais Campbell and Justin Mamaduke as well. So, good stuff all around. Maybe not the elite stuff. So it's a tier 4 pass rush group for me, but a tier 3 run defense for me. So that puts their defense 7th overall. And then Justin Tucker, of course, tier 1 kicker.
Yeah, tier 1 plus kicker.
Yeah, exactly.
They also, behind Pierce, they got Travis Jones in the draft. Guy I kind of like out of UConn too. I think he could be a nice piece. I don't think I'd be shocked if Ojabo plays. But that being said, I like Bowser, Owe, and even at his age, I think Justin Houston might be able to supply a little bit. I think the big thing I'm kind of interested in is, this is the make or break year for Patrick Queen, right?
No, people love these linebackers that were drafted in the first round. They're never good.
The guy moves like a slug. I don't understand.
It's just, Devin White's going to get like $100 million soon. Like, this is just these kind of linebackers. People love them.
I don't see it. I think he struggles in coverage. I think doesn't pass rush very well. There's just not a lot I really add that I think he adds to the game. I just don't think.
Yeah, hopefully he could. And again, I almost hold it against someone too when it's like, how are you struggling when you were put in a scheme that was like supposed to be the perfect scheme for you? Like, that was like, oh, perfect fit, him with the Ravens. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It'll be interesting, but maybe he does bounce back. Maybe he does have his best breakout year.
Yeah. So for the Ravens, I have them with 11.41 wins. That puts them at 3rd in this division. If Deshaun Watson plays for the whole year, which won't happen. So really they're 2nd in the division. So with that, I had them at 7th in the AFC, but missing the playoffs, just given the way everything went down. But, again, if Watson does not play the whole year, that would bump them up to 6th in the AFC, which would be the 3rd wildcard team, 11th in the NFL overall.
Doesn't 7th in the AFC put them in the playoffs?
Because there's a division winner who finished 8th in the
okay, I got
AFC.
you.
Yeah.
All right, no, I spoiled it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think this team will make the playoffs still. I think this team's a playoff team. I think it's hard to imagine this team missing it 2 years in a row. And if they had just horrible injury luck last year, I'm willing to bet that this team's back. And I do think this team's a Super Bowl contender. I do think it has its flaws, but I do think, there are a few things that could work out their way. I think this could be an elite defense, honestly. If these pass rushers grow up a little bit and get a little bit better, I think this could be a really elite defense. And then Lamar's going to do a lot on this offense. And if Bateman breaks out, this could be a really good group too.
Oh, yeah. And again, like I said, this is a team that typically my algorithm, undersells. So they could overperform that. And I would expect them to. So maybe 11.41 wins is low. Still just I'm concerned about that receiving core, though. I do think they're a Super Bowl contender. But I think they need to make sure they don't end up going against the wrong team in the playoffs.
That's fair. But I guess the question will be, what are the wrong teams at this point? We'll have to get into that. We'll see. But I do think I think Cleveland would be a really tough matchup for them in the playoffs, actually, as we just talked about them. But I think there are some teams that they could still take advantage of.
Yeah, I think they would be maybe okay against that sort of cover 2 zone. Although I thought typically that the Lamar offense does well against that defense. But let's get into team number 1, the reigning AFC champions, Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, so I guess the questions are, is there a Super Bowl hangover? Is there, they did lose a couple pieces. They improved some areas too. Is there any, lasting effects of all that stuff? I think they should be all right and all that. And you look at this roster, like I said, they improved the offensive line, which was easily their biggest weakness on the offense. This should be an immensely talented team. They got debatably one of the best quarterbacks in football in Joe Burrow. They got maybe not debatably, it might be the sure thing, the best wide receiver group in the NFL with Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. I think a lot of this group does a lot of things really well. They should be solid defensively again. There's a lot to like about this Bengals football team.
Yeah, the Bengals show you how you rebuild a team. You rebuild a team through a quarterback and then through the outside. None of this built through the trenches stuff. They did it the smart way. This is football in 2022. They're aware of it, and this is why they went to the Super Bowl last year.
It's because that huge scouting department they have.
right. That great indoor practice facility.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah. Well, the best thing and the thing that I love about this team and the thing that drives me crazy about this team are the 2 guys at the top. Joe Burrow, tier 1 quarterback in my opinion. I love Joe Burrow. There's been this growing narrative that Joe Burrow is overrated. I disagree. I think he is underrated. I think Joe Burrow, his advanced statistics last year were fantastic. Not so much in the playoffs, I will give you that, but in the regular season, he was maybe the best quarterback in football, throw for throw. The flip side, Zach Taylor, who I think is the reason why Joe Burrow is underrated, because he refuses to, pass the ball on any first down ever. I want to see Zach Taylor open up the offense more. You have this, I'll split it right here as well. You have this tier 1 wide receiving unit: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Hayden Hurst, Drew Sample. That's best wide receiving core in football in my rankings. Use that more. That's my critique with Zach Taylor. But the flip side, he's very good at developing talent. That's what he's certainly done a great job at. Just the play calling drives me nuts a little sometimes. But he's still, he was 19th on my rankings. So that's how I feel about all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's things to really like about it. There's things not to like about it. Put it in perspective. Joe Burrow, EPA plus completion percentage over expected. Composite ranking, he was 2nd in the NFL behind MVP Aaron Rodgers. So that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Drop back per EPA, this team was 9th in the NFL in drop back per EPA. If you compared that to their running game, they were, 22nd in rushing EPA. That's not to say Mixon's a bad running back. It's just that, it's the same thing we argue for the Vikings. Dalvin Cook is good when he plays, but throwing the ball is still infinitely more valuable than running the ball in this league. And especially when you have these wide receivers and this quarterback, there's really no excuse to not do it more. And you know what? Even if they do run the ball some, I still don't love it, but the offensive line is going to be better and help Joe Mixon this season.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about running the ball, it's like, on 1st and 10, a rush of 4 yards hurts your EPA. Like, that's just, I think a lot of people don't fully realize how you do it to set things up. I get all of it. I just think that teams go a little overboard sometimes. That's all. let's talk about that offensive line, because here's the thing about this offensive line. It's such a weird thing they did where they're like, okay, offensive line, that was our issue. That's what killed us in the Super Bowl. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to fix every position but the one position that was the issue in the Super Bowl. So they went, except for Jonah Williams, he's still there, but they went out and get La'el Collins, they get Alex Kappa, and they get Ted Karras, who I believe will play center. But then the guard situation is still Jackson Carman and Hakeem Adeniji, right? So it's like, I don't know, why didn't we get another guard in the mix here? Why is that still what we're doing? Why are we trying that experiment again? It's tier 3 for me because I do like these other 4 guys so much, but like I'm still confused about that.
Yeah, it is a bold strategy. Now, I actually think Karras is going to play. Karras is a guard center combo. He was a backup center. He started at guard, but backup center. I actually think Trey Hill is going to start at center and Karras is going to start at guard. Which I don't think Hill's great, but at the same time, like I think Karras is better than any of the guards they have on this team besides Kappa. So I think that helps. But they could do either way. I don't know. Karras is a fine center too. I don't know. We'll see how it works. But I guess the thing that's just interesting to me is like I feel like when we see these teams try to buy an offensive line, it works out less than we think. Like, is there a scenario where this doesn't work out? Like, I feel like that is possible.
I suppose so. I mean, I think that's just in general with football. Like, schemes are so different, and like these little details are so different that I actually feel like offensive line, that's probably the one position I would say if you're going to buy a position grouping, that's probably the one to do. That or defensive line. It seems like those are the ones that, because it is so much more similar compared to other stuff. Like, a cornerback, you put them in a different system and they're just like, completely different player. I think, there's at least some similarities there. And also about your Trey Hill point, well, I don't disagree necessarily. It can't be worse than what we saw in the Super Bowl. Like, it can't be worse than Hakeem Adeniji, I don't think. But like, if the counter argument is, well, they have this 6th round pick from last year who had 200 snaps, maybe he'll be the guy instead. You're still missing a guy there.
Yeah, and a couple Bengals fans here saying that it is Karras at center. Carman, they still have faith in. Maybe it works out. I mean, I think that they can do different things. Like I said, I think Karras is a versatile guy that if they want to move him around, they can. That being said, it still feels like it's a guy short.
Yeah, listen, I get the idea of Jackson Carman. Like I'm not saying it won't work out, but you're trying to compete right now. Like, wouldn't this just be awesome if they went out and got JC Tretter? Like, wouldn't that just make this immediately like the best team in football?
Yeah, I mean, make him by far the best offense in football. There's really no argument against it at that point.
Yeah, because to round out the offense, the halfback room, I have it as tier 2. Really like Joe Mixon. Samandre Pirine did some nice things in the playoffs. You have Chris Evans as well, not the Marvel guy. Second best offense in football for me.
Yeah, no complaints on anything in this offense. It's fantastic. I mean, I don't even know, like you said, the left guard spot. I mean, if our biggest complaint, we did 5 minutes on this offense, and our biggest complaint's left guard, like,
fair.
I think you're okay. I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but still is it's just a weird thing that they did of like, oh, we had this one issue on our offensive line, let's fix 3 other positions. It's like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like,
to be fair, the rest of that interior was not good either. So.
No, and it hurt him in the playoffs when Riley Reif went down with an injury that made things look worse on top of it. But anyways, let's get to the defense. I'm confused about this coverage. Here's this, we're really going to hope for another Eli Apple season, right? That's what we're hoping for here, because you have Chidobe Awuzie, you have Mike Hilton, like the safeties, Jesse Bates, Von Bell, you have Tyson Anderson, who you drafted in the 5th round. It's like, and then I guess the one thing I'll say is, you did go out and get Cam Taylor-Britt and Daxton Hill. So they didn't completely ignore the, like, let's get a backup plan. Like, they did do that. So having a tier 3, there still is that question mark with the, second corner. Mike Hilton's the slot guy. It's like, you needed 2 outside corners. And if that doesn't work in that system, you're going to be in trouble. So I'm hopeful that Eli Apple will work out, but there's that concern.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. I think that's my biggest worry with this Bengals defense is, I'm not betting on Eli Apple. I mean, when we say he was good, he was also PFF's 71st ranked cornerback last year. So It's not like we were talking about a borderline all-pro. He was good in the playoffs. He was better in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he made some big plays as well.
Yes. So you give him credit for that. I think there's a lot of really good depth here. I think that's the thing. Like you said, they had a first and second round pick who might not start for this team. So that's a positive sign, I think, that you have those guys in behind. I do think that they're going to let Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill potentially work into starting roles. I do think that's a possibility. So I think it's going to be okay. But like I said, if you have those guys as your backups, that's pretty good at situation when you're letting those rookies grow like that. They're deep there.
Yeah. Part of it, too, is I'm putting my own evaluation in this. I wasn't crazy about either of those two players just in general. So that's another aspect. The front seven is, solid across the board with, the interior, DJ Reader and BJ Hill. You have Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard, and then you also have Joseph Asai, who was a third rounder. And then for the linebackers, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, who are solid. I don't love Hendrickson or Hubbard. I like both of them. I don't think they're stars by any means. I have it as tier 3 pass rush and tier 3 run defense. I think as a whole, this defense kind of shows you it's like, if you just get tier 3 across the board, that could do a lot of damage. And that's what I have them for here. Also, Evan McPherson, tier 1 kicker. So they're tied for 18th in terms of total defense, but they could be one of those teams where the whole is greater than the sum of their parts with just not having any holes as long as Eli Apple plays like he did last year.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think the star of this defense on the line is DJ Reader.
Yeah, I would agree.
The thing is that, a run-stuffing defensive tackle is not the most sexy position.
Right.
But he makes life a lot easier for guys like Hendrickson, for guys like BJ Hill. I think he does a really good job of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this team was 11th in defensive EPA last season. I think they should be around that spot again. I think this is a really good group top to bottom. I mean, that's the thing. So like you said, if Eli Apple is solid again this next season, there's not really a spot where you look at this as a weakness that's going to be exploited on this Bengals defense. It's just good across the board. And I mean, if guys like Bates have bounce back seasons to where they're elite again, this could be a really good defense.
Yeah, it should be very fascinating. I have this team winning 12.54 games. That is third best in football, but first in the AFC. So I have the Bengals going back to the Super Bowl.
You have the Bengals back to the Super Bowl.
I do. What's that?
Not worried about the Super Bowl hangover.
Has anyone ever, is that just a thing people say? What do we know about isn't it just really hard to make it to back-to-back Super Bowls?
Yeah, it is. But it's fun to say that the losing team struggles.
I guess so. I mean, but I don't know. No, I'm not concerned about the fact that they went to the Super Bowl last year. That does not concern me in their trip to try to get to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be good. I think this team's going to be good. I think it addressed a lot of its needs, and I mean, like I said, there's hard to find really a weakness, and it's like you said, it's how you build a team in this day and age. You build with strong players in the secondary. They went out and got elite wide receivers on the outside, and they went and got their quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. So a lot to like about this Bengals team. I think this is a really tough division. That might be the only thing that kind of knocks them down a little bit in the standings, but I still think they're going to be in the conversation for a Super Bowl. I agree.
Yeah, I also have to say about the AFC, a lot of really good teams. I don't know how much teams I feel like are as good as a couple of the teams I like in the NFC. I think the NFC has the best top 3 teams compared to the AFC's top 3 teams. But then I think the AFC's top 7 is way better than the NFC's top 7.
I think you can nitpick a lot of the teams in the AFC at the top. I think that they have the fun quarterbacks too. That also have the fun young quarterbacks. And Russell Wilson, who's just weird, but at the same time, so they have the fun quarterbacks and they have, talented teams. I think there's things you can nitpick. You can nitpick, we went through the Ravens and the Bengals and just nitpicked them for 30 minutes each, basically. I think when you look at, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, I think there's things you can kind of nitpick, but they're also I think they're going to be elite at these things.
Yeah, I think so as well. Kyle, next week we'll be doing the the AFC West, or as I'm going to call it, the most overrated division in football.
The most overrated?
Yes, I think so.
Well, it's my number 1 division in football. So
all right, good. We'll have lots to argue about.
I mean, this is another one where it's I think I can nitpick a lot of these teams that we're going to talk about next week, but I still think they're going to be pretty good football teams.
All right. There's a lot of star power next week. That's no doubt. Not hurting on any star power there.
Yes, that is true. And everyone's favorite guy, Max Crosby.
Yeah, I guess so. Is he one of your new guys now? You're out on since Tim Patrick is out for the year. You're going with Max Crosby.
Deante Johnson, Max Crosby, Kyle Juszczyk. Those are definitely on the list of Kyle's guys.
Yeah, those are who are my guys. I guess Colt McCoy is one of my guys. I think my guys are just like funny backup quarterbacks. That's pretty much what I got.
I guess so. Jacoby Brissett's not your guy after this show.
Yeah, Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond, yeah. I mean, he's forever your guy.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right. Let us know in the comments below who is your guy. Kyle, that's our show. Let them know where you can find us on Twitter.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. Make sure to follow the account page. That's at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course. Anywhere you get your podcast, the audio only feed is available. If you found us on the audio only feed, you can check out the YouTube channel, Jackson Kruger Sports. A lot of good stuff here. I just made a bunch of videos about the preseason, so check those out. A lot of fun. Kyle, the Ravens have won 21 straight preseason games.
I think they take this personally.
What do you mean?
Like they really want to keep this streak going.
I think so. I think that they're aware of it and they care about it. This is not just a thing that just happened to be it.
Is that embarrassing? Would you be proud of that? Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Remember when there was that whole controversy with Vic Fangio and John Harbaugh got mad at each other when they ran a play to get 100 yards, like on the last play of the game, just to keep that streak going. John Harbaugh, he coaches the way I play Madden. Like I like the records, like to keep the streaks and stuff.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. So I didn't watch anything today. Is it too early to write Tyquan Thornton into the Hall of Fame?
No. It's the right time. Yeah. You think he'll go in as a Patriot or a Buccaneer?
Shut up. I think he only had 2 catches today. So
yeah. No, should be fun. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
We are 28 days till football season.
Man,
looking forward to it, man. Should be good stuff.
Yeah, well, that's 4 weeks away. I mean, this is we're right here.
It is time, man. We're getting there. By the way, shout out to your Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Unfortunately, Sam Hartman's out. That's going to be a tough blow for you.
Oh no! I think I heard that news and just didn't even register. That's the team that it has been assigned to me.
Oh yeah, I forgot. So tough blow for them. Hopefully he comes back healthy.
Yeah, you can never count this Wake Forest team out.
Man, you got to get ready for college football season.
Do I?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think I'm ready now.
All right. We could have the best college football playoff ever this season.
Well, why do you say that?
I think there's a real chance that the 4th seed might be the defending national champions, who are going to have the best defense in football again.
It's the best playoffs ever. So maybe we'll have 2 games. Both the games will only be decided by 14 points.
Possibly.
Whoa, that would be wild.
Yeah.
Maybe even get a 1-score game in the 4th quarter potentially.
That'd be great. I'd love to see it. Hey, we had a 4 seed win a college football championship the first year, so maybe we'll have it again. We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, every now and then. Should be interesting. Yeah. All right, Kyle, that's your show.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, let's get out of here. Indeed. Thanks to everybody. We do appreciate it. We'll see you. Oh, last thing. Next week, just be on the lookout. It might be a later time again. Sorry, we're scheduling conflicts. We're doing it when we can, but we will have a show next week. At some point, it might be a night show again, but be on the lookout for that. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.